Welcome into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you as always. You know the drill. You can follow me over there on Twitter at Chris J. Burkhardt, where you can ask all your questions, send me all your comments, and we can have all sorts of fun. It's been a little while since I talked to you here on this show, but that's because, I've been filling in for Chad. I've been on game day. I've been on the fifth quarter. We've been having a wild ride over the last few weeks with the Blazers hitting the road for a 7-game road trip, and things have been up and down as the end of the calendar of 2023 ended up flipping to 2024, and things haven't gotten much better for the Blazers. The Blazers lost 3 of their final 5 heading in to the new year, and things, again, like I said, they've been up and they've been down. They've had good games, like a victory over the Sacramento Kings 130-113, where they did what they needed to do, and that was beat the Sacramento Kings at their own game. Up tempo, they had fun, and they were just absolutely killing it. They had a big win in the middle of December, 109-104 over the Phoenix Suns. But then they had losses to the Wizards, 118-117. They were demolished by the Spurs, 118-105 in the first of a back-to-back. They bounced back. They grabbed the win just the night later, 134-128. But of course, Victor Wembanyama didn't play in that one. And then they get into the new year. They start with a New Year's Day game against the Phoenix Suns on the road. They lose 109-88, and you're like, okay, that's not the best way to start the year. Hopefully they right this ship a little bit, have a little bit more success as they go to Dallas. But the tough part there was that the Dallas Mavericks have absolutely owned this team all season long. Luka Doncic, who's averaging about 40, 10, and 10 against this team, went off in the first game, and the Mavericks grabbed the 126-97 victory. And then you hope maybe they could bounce back because they were stuck in Dallas and they had to take another match against those same Mavericks. Though Luka Doncic sat out, the Mavericks, they just did not slow down one bit, and they grabbed a 139-103 victory over the Blazers. So they started the season 0-3, the new year 0-3, and 0-3 on a 7-game road trip. They went into Brooklyn on Sunday night looking to right the ship, and they did. They grabbed the 134-127 overtime victory, and that was hopefully one of those games that they can continue to build on, because there was a lot of good things in that one. And it's not going to get any easier for this team as the gauntlet continues to roll. They have games against the Knicks, Oklahoma City, Minnesota to end this trip. Then they get back home. They get Phoenix, the Brooklyn team that they just beat, Indiana, who's been playing great. And then on the road again, where they'll meet up with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are one of the best teams in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets, who are much improved this season compared to last, meaning coaching can help you out because Ime Udoka has turned that team around, and they still got games against at home against the 76ers. The return of Damian Lillard, a double on the road against the Nuggets, a double at home in the middle of February against Minnesota before heading into All-Star break. The point is the schedule doesn't get any easier. So you need games like the one you had against Brooklyn on Sunday to find things that you can learn quickly, things that you can build upon, things that you can say, you know what, that's what we want to be every single game. That's what you need to do right now. Now, we'll get into a little bit of that game against Brooklyn, what we saw, what we liked, but I think what we really need to talk about is what the Blazers are looking like right now in 2024 ahead of next month's trade deadline, and how they can maybe improve or at least set themselves up for a successful 2024-2025 season, which is a lot more in line with what this team is going to do in the long run. Chad and I have been saying all season long, leading up to the tip-off in Game 1 to right now, that this season was never about wins and losses. And it wasn't. This season was about building this team for the future, getting all your ducks in a row, figuring out what you had in your young rookie Scoot Henderson, figuring out what you had in your sophomore Shaden Sharpe, figuring out what you had in your now face-your franchise Anthony Simons, etc., etc., etc. That's what it was about, development and learning. But it doesn't mean the wins and losses aren't fun or that they don't matter. The fan base has had a rough time because they're not used to losing like this, and now this is year 3, even though it's probably actually year 1, right? We've talked about that 2 seasons ago. Eye on the prize, playoffs. We're going to work around the edges. We're going to bring in the pieces we need. We're going to make that run. The wheels fall off midway through. You go into tank mode. You end up getting Shaden Sharpe. Last season, almost deja vu, right? Replayed itself, and then the wheels fall off just like they did the season prior. You go into tank mode. Everybody sits because they're air quotes injured. You get the number 3 overall pick. You draft Scoot Henderson. And then the crazy offseason, trade demands, trading a face of your franchise. You know what happened. We don't need to rehash that, but that puts you where you are now. And this is probably the first year you walked in knowing that from November 1st on, this was a rebuild season. And hopefully not a rebuild in the truest sense of the words, because you didn't pull this thing all the way down to the foundation. You pulled off the drywall, right? You found a couple studs that were rotted, so you need to replace those. And now you're just trying to build this thing back up. Maybe add a bedroom, add a little extension off the back of the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't a full tear down to the foundation like we've seen with other teams, with teams like the Pistons, right? Teams like Orlando, who have just been nothing but young guys and building over the long process with no stars around them. And kudos to them. They're playing incredible right now, right? But this one, you had Jeremy Grant in tow. You had Anthony Simons. You had DeAndre Ayton, who hasn't been playing for the last few weeks, is dealing with knee tendonitis. But you still had some guys who you could build a team around, or at least, have a good roster to go win games with. And now it's just a matter of finding all those young guys to match up with them. That was the goal. And that's what we're seeing throughout this entire process. And what I have found so fun over this season is that you have seen the guys you expected. You've seen them have their trials and tribulations, but then you've seen guys that you did not expect to even sniff the court, let alone play well. And those guys are standing out too. I'm talking about guys like Toumani Camara, guys like Duop Reith, who, oh my gosh, he has been phenomenal. He has been phenomenal. The first Blazer rookie since Arvydas Sabonis to pull in the 25.9 rebound game. First Blazer big to do that, right? Had his first double-double against Brooklyn. He's looked great. Now, again, not saying he's a starting center in this league or the future starting center for this team or any of that. I'm just saying that the opportunity was there and he opened the door. And he has been great. So as has Toumani Camara, right? So there's been flashes of greatness, and we'll dive into those guys a little bit throughout this show. But one thing and one thing only has kind of made me take pause. Chad asked me the other day if I was concerned, and there's nothing about this team that concerns me, because at this point in the year, this team is exactly what I thought they would be. They're 10-25. They are obviously on the outside looking in of any playoff contentions. They're well in the battle for a top lottery pick again, but you're seeing flashes of good things. And early on in the year, it was about, what is this team's mentality? Right? What are they going to be? Who are the Trailblazers? I said this in November. Like, if you face the Denver Nuggets, you know what kind of team you're getting. You're going to get a team that's going to feed it through Nikola Jokic. They're going to beat you with nonstop backdoor cuts, moving the ball around, finding open shots, and they're just going to nickel and dime you to death. Right? If you go play a Tom Thibodeau Knicks team, you know defense is of the utmost importance. If you go play the Golden State Warriors, you know it's the Steph Curry show. Right? A lot of these teams have identities. What was the Blazers? The Blazers' identity was that they weren't going to back down. They were going to come and give you a fun brand of basketball every single night. Win or lose, they were going to be in these games. And maybe they'd run out of gas midway through the fourth quarter, which we saw happen quite often early on, but it was fun basketball. Unfortunately, the month of December, not so much. They started to lose that identity a bit. Some of the games that I already mentioned, the loss against San Antonio, the loss against the Wizards, the 2 losses on the road in Dallas, where the team probably looked as worse or as bad as they've looked all year. And those ones hurt. Those ones hurt. Because I think fans can take a loss. They can't take a loss when the team just looks uninterested, right? Lethargic. Almost wondering what's going on here. Why'd we show up today? And that's why I hope this game that happened on Sunday in Brooklyn can be that catalyst for change, because everybody showed up. The team looked energized. The team looked ready to play. And that was why they were able to come back, grab the lead late, stay in it to get to overtime, and then win that game in overtime. And I like that. There was fight. There was that dog mentality, right? Fifth quarter, I got to play Jane's Addiction. Been caught stealing because it starts with the dogs barking. Rough, rough, rough. The team has a little dog in them. They just want to see that consistently, right? So that they can show you every single game they're going to play like that. So if this team plays like they played in Brooklyn every single day, every single game, I think Blazer fans can be okay with that. I'd be okay with that. As a fan, I'm okay with it. As a reporter, I'm okay with it. As a talking head, I'm okay with it. Because at least it's a fun brand of basketball. And that's what I'm asking for in a season when you know wins and losses are going to be hard to come by. To find your enjoyment, to find the things that are important. You got to look between the lines a little bit. And you got to see the growth of Toumani Camara. You got to see the emergence of Duop Reith. You got to see the flashes of brilliance that you're seeing from Scoot Henderson. And understand that if these guys continue to ascend and blow through their glass ceilings and just hit sky's the limit, then this team can put together wins. And this team can be really fun. And the future is going to be very, very bright in Portland. That sun will start cracking through the gray and the overcast and the clouds, and it'll be a bright, sunshiny day. Right now, though, you're 10-25, and you are the second worst team in the Western Conference, which makes you the 5th worst team in the NBA. The only team's worse than you, San Antonio, who has Victor Wembanyama and not a lot else. The Detroit Pistons, who might be the worst team in the history of this game right now, at 3-33. Darn near lost 30 straight games. Unbelievable. The Washington Wizards, who are 6-29, are worse than you. Tough part about that one is 2 of those 3 teams I just mentioned have a victory over you. And then, of course, there's the Charlotte Hornets at 8-25. But that's okay. That's okay. Because this thing's going to start, it's going to start turning. I know that as I said earlier in the season, or this show, the schedule's a little bit crazy. They still got some absolute matchups down the road. Like I said, Indiana at home. Damian Lillard's return, 2 against the Nuggets in Denver. So, of course, there's going to be more losses. But if they play like they played against Brooklyn on Sunday, I still think there's fun basketball to be had. And then we get to continue to watch the emergence of Scoot Henderson, who has looked very good back in the starting lineup, who has looked good playing next to Anthony Simons. I mean, I'm liking the fact that this guy's throwing up 17-point, 10-assist games, that he has 4 double-doubles now, has twice hit the 11-assist point. Like, I like that. Because that's the type of guard he is. He's not your Anthony Simons, go drop 30 on your head every single night. He's an assist finder, an assist getter, and he's showing it. He's showing it, and he's getting better. I like him in the starting lineup next to Ant. And then you got Malcolm and Shea coming off the bench, which we'll get into that too, because I think they are onto something, at least for the rest of this season, with that lineup. Because I'm not saying it says anything about his future at the position, but right now as a 6th man, I think is the perfect spot for Shaedon Sharpe to be. Truly do. And I think he's been playing well since he's back from injury. It's just a handful of games. I'm not going to get too excited over 3 games that he's been back? 4 games now. But he's looked good. He had 16 against Dallas, 15 the next night against Dallas, and then that win over Brooklyn, poured in 21 off the bench. So he's looking good as the team's 6th man. I definitely like that a lot. But that's just kind of the skinny. I just had that was kind of like a little bit of breakdown of what's happened over the last few weeks, because it's been a minute since I've talked to you here on Courtside Monday. Of course, this is Chris Burkhardt, your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris J. Burkhardt. That's where we can continue the conversation 24 hours a day, 365, 366 in these leap years, right? And have some fun. But that's the skinny of it. The team has had its ups and downs. The players have had their ups and downs individually, but I still think the best is yet to come, obviously. I'm not too down. There's things I would like to change, of course. I think everybody would, but I'm not too down because, man, if Scoot hits, Shea hits, all these things happen. Of course, that's what any team can say. Oh, if our star guy does this and the guy does that, we're going to be good. I truly think this team will be, because I truly think Scoot's great. I think Simons is great. Still a lot of moving parts. And keep in mind that NBA trade deadline is just a month away. And there are plenty of players on this Blazer roster who will have GMs around the league calling Joe Cronin. And we'll talk about that when we return. And of course, we're going to listen to Malcolm Brogdon. We're going to listen to Anthony Simons, and we're going to hear from Coach Billups following that game in Brooklyn. And again, talk about maybe where this team's going to sit post-trade deadline. Chris Burkhardt here. It's Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers. On Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, on social media at Chris J. Burkhardt, and send me all your questions and comments there. And of course, you can listen on the iHeartRadio music app, on the radio in your car, and you can catch us on YouTube. Make sure you go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and you'll be able to catch live and recorded versions of all of our shows. You'll also be able to get some best of clips when we get a chance to get those up, unless there's technology snafus, which there are now and then, but it's a good way to get in the conversation. Of course, we'll have Blazers game day before every single game, and the 5th quarter with Chad doing after the games as well. Both of those great content-driven shows by you, the listener. Just jump in again, youtube.com, Rip City Radio. Go like, share, subscribe, and whenever we're live, you can jump in on the comment section, and you can be part of the show as well. All right, before we continue to really get into the rest of the year and the trade deadline, I want to look at that game against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday. Because again, I think that was a type of game that can maybe really turn this thing around. And again, I'm not talking about, okay, they're going to turn this around. They're going to rattle off, 15 in a row. They're going to be right back at 500 in the conversation. No, when I mean turn around, I just mean turn around the vibes, right? Because the vibes over the last week and a half, 2 weeks have not been great. Felt like a team that just couldn't wait to get through the holiday season, that just couldn't wait to get this 7-game road trip, which is just crazy, just out of the way, and maybe just get to All-Star break and a chance to reset, right? And again, that's still a month away. That is still a month away, but the vibes were not good. Weren't good at all. And so That's what I mean when I say turn this thing around, because getting back into a place where the vibes are good again. And the team is doing what we saw in November when they were out there fighting in every single game. And even if they were losing, they were playing an entertaining brand of basketball. They're bringing it on both ends. Ball was moving on offense. Defensively, they were playing well. Everything was clicking. You could see the little flashes that were going to be in the long run, right? The flashes of brilliance. Team was happy. All things were good. Vibes were great. Again, things changed middle of December through the first few games of this road trip. But that game against Brooklyn felt like it changed it. It truly did. Because everyone was smiling. Anthony Simons looked absolutely happier than heck in the post-game post-game availability on the court with Brooke. In the locker room, he seemed happy. Malcolm Brogdon was full of energy, right? And these are good things. Coach Billups started his post-game press conference after the loss in Dallas with the heaviest of heavy sighs. Just a giant, right? Vibes. But the game against Brooklyn, he smile on his face, happy. He liked the fight that his team showed. And that was one thing he talked about after those losses in Dallas. He didn't like the fact that he felt like the team didn't even put up a fight. Because that's not the team he wants. But the team put up a fight in Brooklyn, and the result was a win against the Nets. And you look at how that game broke down. First off, Mikal Bridges. Yeah, he had a game, 42 points, 15 to 26 shooting, an incredible shot, which eventually would be the game tire that sent it to overtime. Well, I guess right at the buzzer there, second left. But it was a super tough shot. Great defense by Tamani Kamara. That was just pure leg strength and upper body strength from Bridges to hit that little step back jumper. And I mean, he floated for a minute and waited till that outstretched arm of Tamani Kamara was right in a spot where he could not get a fingertip on the ball and then let it fly. Nothing but net. Which tied the game right after Shaedon Sharpe had an incredible last second drive to the basket, score the go-ahead bucket with 5 seconds left. Had a chance at a three with 11 seconds left. He was wide open, and he fought the temptation to take that shot, took the smarter shot, got the layup. I mean, it was a good game. They were fighting all the way to the end. And so, again, yes, Mikal Bridges had a good game, but you look at what the Blazers did. Shaedon Sharpe, 21 points off of the bench, 7 of 14 shooting, 3 of 6 from deep. He was doing everything. He's still becoming a bona fide bucket, that's for sure. I do think right now, though, again, with the way Simons is playing and Scoot really playing well in that point guard position, starting in the starting five, that this is just a perfect spot for Shaedon Sharpe to be. Can he be the starting small forward or the starting shooting guard in 2025 or next season or whatever? Maybe. I still think sky's the limit for him. But right now, I think this is perfect. It allows him to just get the ball in his hand with the second unit, go crazy, be a shot taker, make those shots, and then we're going to make sure you're on the court in the crunch time too when we need you, because he was on the court with the starters to end that game, not Scoot, right? So he's still going to be there in key moments. I also like him coming off the bench right now because it allows Scoot to be playing with the vet that is Anthony Simons, right? Who's a guy who can play both the 1 and the 2, and it doesn't mess with anything, and it also allows Sharpe to play a lot of the 2, and then Brogdon to play more 1, which I think he can play both as well, but he's more of that pure point guard as well, and it gives Sharpe that vet to play with in those second unit minutes. So I like that a lot. Now I'm looking forward to getting DeAndre Ayton back so that Duop Reath can go back to the bench. And if you get Duop Reath back on the bench, then you get a nice little scoring punch with Sharpe and Reath, because Reath has been phenomenal, guys. He has been phenomenal against the Nets. I know it sounds weird, but scored his very first career double-double, 15 points, 13 rebounds, also had 3 blocks. And he adds a very different dynamic than DeAndre Ayton just because of his ability to space the floor. He hits the 3. He was 3 of 4 shooting in this one from deep, 5 of 10 overall. Jeremy Grant, after a rough performance in the second game against Dallas, he ends up chipping in 27. And then Anthony Simons had the Anthony Simons type game, 38 points, 13 of 25 shooting, 7 of 8 from the line, 5 of 10 from deep. good balance. Now, Chris Murray and Ibu Baji only played 16 minutes combined. Neither one of them chipped in a point. Tamani Kamara only scored 5, but again, he's not there to score buckets. He's there to play defense, and he's doing it great. They didn't have Jabari Walker. They didn't have Matisse Thybulle. They didn't have DeAndre Ayton. They went into Brooklyn and got the win. I love that. I absolutely love that about this team. You know who else loved it? I think Coach Billups loved it. So let's take a listen to hear what he had to say following the Blazers' 134-127 victory over the Nets.
So much. Malcolm is I say it all the time, he's just a grown-up, man. He's a grown-up on the floor and off the floor. He's kind of like, our voice, if you will, or one of our, leaders that when he talks, you listen, and he's in a tough spot here, because he's coming off the bench, and sometimes he comes off of the bench and don't have the ball in his hands, and he's a point guard. But he said, I understand where we're at, I understand what we're doing. When he plays, he does things like this. He's always a plus player, So I'm just loving having him here. He's like an extension of me out there, and even in that locker room, he's just a leader. So his presence is felt every day. We're lucky to have Malcolm.
Scoot didn't play the final fourth quarter or overtime, right?
Yeah.
Reason behind that?
We were playing well, and like I said, we finally got some continuity. We finally got it going. It was nothing that he didn't do to not play, but you can't play everybody. You know how it is, and you get these two guys that are rolling. We just got to ride it out and see. Sometimes he's going to be one of those guys, sometimes he's not.
Do you anticipate going back to Ant and Sharpe starting?
No. I'm okay where I'm at right now.
Coach, Metum, he was a bit in a foul trouble, but you put him back in at the beginning of the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the confidence you have in his mindset to be able to defend without falling.
Yeah, I'm very confident in Tumani, and I want him to always be aggressive. Even the last play of the game, Bridges hit a heck of a shot, but I put 2 in to guard him. He had a tough shot, but I thought it was good defense, and I trust Tumani, in those situations. Like I said, he's one of our better defensive players and rebounders, and he plays with the spirit that I have, with his toughness and stuff. So I thought he was good.
And you heard Coach Billups talk about Malcolm Brogdon there during that post-game press conference. And as I was going down the stat line, didn't even mention him. Didn't even mention the fact that he went 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 6 from deep, 18 points. And again, that wasn't as much as Sharpe, that wasn't as much as Simons, and was as much as Grant. But I don't know, outside of Sharpe's go-ahead bucket in the final seconds there before the Nets would force overtime, I don't think there was one more important than the ones Malcolm Brogdon was hitting. He was on fire there in the fourth quarter, kept the Blazers in the game, hitting big three-pointers, being the vet that this team needs. I thought he was phenomenal. And speaking of Malcolm Brogdon, let's take a second to hear what he had to say following that big performance.
Malcolm, kind of start overall picture, just how much did you guys need this win tonight?
We definitely needed it. We've had some guys out. It's been hard to really get chemistry and, get us playing together as a cohesive unit. So to pull a win like this out, this is a team that's competing for a playoff spot. So that's a really good win for us.
And your mindset in that overtime, you were clutch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ant was really doing all the hard work for us. For me, it's a matter of doing what I do every day, shoot the ball. So that's my comfort zone. Ant was making the right reads every single time down the floor, and, we had to help him out.
Did you see the behind-the-back pass coming?
I didn't see that coming, but I saw a pass. I knew he was going to get it to me. I had made one before, and he's a guy that always looks for me. He knows I'm a try to knock down shots for him. So, me and Ant have good chemistry for sure.
Just your thoughts on the way, especially with the way you guys have played the last couple games. What do you feel about the effort tonight, and particularly in the fourth quarter, late in the game? It seems like a lot of guys made plays.
I thought overall tonight, from beginning to end, we had a sort of a renewed energy, a renewed effort. and it lasted. We've struggled this season, I think, because we're a young team, we're inexperienced, to put a full 48 minutes together. Tonight we were able to put 53 minutes together. So, I'm proud of this group, proud of these guys, I'm proud of the coaching staff for staying encouraged. I think Chauncey continues to do a great job with us. It's a young group. He's patient, but he pushes us. We're doing our best. We're gonna pull out more wins.
You were adamant about challenging that call too.
Yeah. Refs have a tough job too, and sometimes they miss calls. I was one of the ones they missed, and I was sure of that. Yeah.
Dwop breathed his first double-double, which is surprising because he had that 25 and 9 a few weeks ago. What are the little things he does that you might not even see in a stat sheet like tonight?
Oh man, I think his overall physicality, his overall IQ of the game, his feel. I think that's why he actually is so successful. I think he has a great feel, a great perspective on the game. He's able to make the right plays at the right time. He knows what shots to shoot, what shots to turn down. And then as far as, being a big and being a little bit undersized at the 5 position, he just plays position defense, position rebounding, all that. He knows what spots to be at. He has a good nose for the ball. So he's a high IQ guy.
For all the problems you guys had in Dallas, one thing that jumped out is that Ant and Sharpe both struggled as they were coming back. Tonight they both go off and you guys win. And the offense is good. How important was it to have those guys back there?
Huge. Those guys, them and Jeremy, are our best scorers on the team. So we need those guys really to step up every night. And like any team in the league, your best players, your best scorers don't step up every single night, but we're going to need those guys to do it most nights. So on nights that they don't, it's going to be hard to pick up the load, but on nights that they do, most nights, we're going to be a good team.
And there you heard Malcolm Brogdon. He was talking about how Ant was doing all the hard work for him, and he was. Like I said, darn near 40-point performance, a great 5 of 10 from 3-point range. He did have 11 assists, which I think that might be only the third time he's had 10 or more his entire career, something crazy like that. But he was pushing the ball, which was great to see. Absolutely great to see, man. That was a lot of people talked about it after Coach Billups said, we don't have an alpha on this team. And different people valued alphas differently. Like, to me, an alpha is the guy who's going to raise his voice and the entire locker room is going to look at and say, okay, we're going to follow you where you want us to go. That was Dame, right? That's a Michael Jordan. That's a Kobe Bryant. You don't have to be that type to be an alpha, because some people, an alpha is the guy who's going to go just score buckets and be your go-to guy. Ant was definitely that against Brooklyn. I think he was the alpha on the court this night. And if he can play like that more often and be that alpha, have that Mamba mentality, as they say, man, he's already special, but he's only going to continue to improve. Nice to have him back. Nice to have him healthy. Now let's take a second to hear what he had to say following that big victory.
We played great. We got stops when we needed to. Malcolm came up big for us. Shaden came up big for us. You know what I mean? When we needed a basket. So I'm just proud of those guys that they was able to step up. Malcolm been here before, but especially Shaden in a big moment like that. He's had big shots before, but this is also another big shot for him, especially to get us up 2 in the fourth quarter.
They double teaming you, trying to get the ball out of your hands late in the game. You kept making the right pass, whether it was to Shaden, whether it was to Malcolm. It seems like you're pretty comfortable with that, because it seems like that's something you've had to endure before, is teams really kind of selling out on you.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? It's just, it's very, I have no problem, passing out that double team, to guys that, any of the perimeter players, they're going to make a play. And that's just, especially for like young guys like Shaden, that's just the maturation in the game. Being able to recognize in those moments that I need to go, or, maybe not. And in that moment, we was trying to tell them to, go be aggressive. There's nobody in the paint like that, and he went out there and did it and got a big basket for us.
What does it say about this group that you guys were able to kind of refocus and come out like this after the way the first 3 games of the road trip went?
It's obviously it's been up and down season, but I think we've pretty much stayed, together all through everything, even the bad nights in Dallas. We came in today with a fresh new mind, and we got Dallas out of our heads, and we wanted to come in and play how we've been playing before Dallas. So we was able to do that, and that's how we came out today and got a win.
Did you just need a couple days to get right because you struggled obviously?
Yeah, I think in the first two games, first game I didn't really notice it. People saw it on the thing like you looked a little slow and tired. The second game in Dallas, I definitely felt it. And I mean, I was getting tired quickly, and a little bit today, but I felt, you know what I mean, I had no time to be tired. You know what I mean, in today's game, you know what I mean, it was a close game, so I still feel a little bit, but I'm getting back.
All right, so there you have. There's Ant talking about the win. Nice to have him back. Nice to have him playing well, playing next to Scoop, playing with Duop Reith, who's been wonderful. The big thing for this team, I guess, would be health, right? I feel like that's a little bit of a deja vu, is how often do we ever get to see this team fully healthy with its full complement, right? With, all 15. We want to see that. I want to see Ayton out there because I think Ayton's fun because once Ayton's out there, you get another dynamic to the pick and roll, and then it moves Duop Reith back to the second unit, which I think he can be real good next to Shea, give them a scoring punch. He's been phenomenal, man. Him and Ibu Baji, right? They deserve so much applause, and I mean so much applause, because neither one of them was supposed to be much. Ibu Baji might have been the team's fifth or sixth center on this team. You had Ayton, you have Reith, you have Jabari Walker. Robert Williams was your true backup center before he got hurt. And like I said, Jabari was your small ball guy. And then you get down to the Moses Brown, Ibu Bajis, right? And Ibu Baji's been up here and he's been playing great. Yes, he's not lighting up the scoreboard. He's not lighting up the glass or any of that. But man, for all things considered, the fact that he started his first NBA game the other day and he's out there playing meaningful minutes, applaud that man. And same with Duop Reith. Because Duop Reith, his is all about opportunity knocking, right? Opportunity knocked. He busted the door down. And he might very well be getting a full contract. Twitter or the X app there at Chris J. Burkhardt. And of course, if you haven't already, head on over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel where you can catch Courtside Monday, Rip City Drive, Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, Blazers Game Day, and the fifth quarter live. And in case you didn't get a chance to catch it live, you can catch the replays over there as well. It's a one-stop shop for all things Rip City Radio. All right, now before we went to break, we talked about how there were some moves over the weekend that may have raised an eyebrow or two, but they all made sense in the long run, and that was the team waiving Ish Wainwright and Skylar Mays. And a lot of people were like, why would they pull Skylar Mays up to a full-time contract off that two-way just to end up waiving him before the year's done? Doesn't make any sense. I'm here to tell you it makes perfect sense. First off, this was the deadline that contracts are going to become fully guaranteed. So you can get Skylar Mays, Ish Wainwright off the books, not going to have a big major impact on the cap. Secondarily, the reason that they converted Skylar Mays' contract was because Anthony Simons was hurt and they needed him. Now you can go, well, yeah, of course they needed him, but he was on a two-way deal. He was going to be able to play anyway. Here's the thing. A two-way player can play up to 50 games for the parent squad. They can be up there active on the roster for up to 50 games. However, total of all your two-way player contracts can only be 90. So if Duop Reith had played 40 and Skylar Mays had played 40, that would leave only 10 games for any other two-way player. So to not eat into that allotment, because they knew they were going to have to play him, right? They give him the deal, convert it over, and that doesn't eat into their two-way days that they're allowed. And that's come in handy when you got guys like Ibu Baji up here, as well as the man I just mentioned, Duop Reith, right? So that makes sense. Now they get rid of him and Ish Wainwright, don't have a big cap implications because of it. They haven't eaten into those 90 days for your 3 two-way players. And this is likely going to mean that at some point Duop Reith's contract will be converted for the rest of the season, which is a very good deal for him. And then the Blazers will still have one open roster spot ahead of the February 8th trade deadline, to where maybe they can do a 2-for-1 type deal, get another player in, what have you. But it makes sense. Now, I know people liked Skylar Mays. Again, similar to Duop Reith, a guy who had opportunity. No, it knocked, and he took advantage of it. He played quite well. But we got to be quite honest here. I mean, he is your third string, if not fourth string guard, because you're thinking, right, who's going to play point guard? I got Scoot, I got Ant, I got Brogdon, I got Skylar Mace. So it's not a big loss in that aspect. And he'll land somewhere, whether it's on another G League deal or someone else who needs a roster spot eventually, because he's got Hooper in him. He's absolutely got Hooper in him. But for what this team needed at this point in time, makes absolute sense. Now, trade deadline. Things are going to get really interesting here. I have long been a firm believer that I don't think there is necessarily a big incentive to go trade Jeremy Grant right now. I think there's going to be teams that are calling. I think that's for sure. But do you have to trade him? I mean, he just signed that 5-year deal. I think next season, when you're looking at a guy who's in the second year, still 3 years remaining, he becomes a little bit more tradable at that point. But I've long said that if Scoot gets going and Shea gets going, and you find this balance between Shea, Scoot, and Ant, what's something you're going to want? You're going to want a very capable starting power forward as well. You don't want to start that over. So I think it does make sense to at least keep him around for a minute to see how the team progresses. The one name that is definitely going to be shopped, though, is Malcolm Brogdon, because there's going to be teams lining up for his services. He's a very good vet. He plays good on both ends. You can put him into the starting lineup at the 1 or the 2 if need be. He's a great anchor for your bench rotation. And there's going to be, I think, just about any playoff team that needs a little bit of extra guard help or just any little thing to get them over the hump in the long run is going to be looking at Malcolm Brogdon. Now, do I know what the Blazers are going to get in return? Of course not. I'm not Nostradamus. And if I knew what the Blazers were going to get in return at every single turn, then I would just be GM and taking care of business, right? But I can tell you, I look at a team like a Philadelphia. I think they could use him. I think a team like Denver could use him. I don't know what they'd give up because their cap situation's really rough when it comes to matching deals. But again, I think they could use him. What about a team like Sacramento? Give them a little extra punch off the bench. The tough part is I think there's a lot of Western Conference teams like, oh yeah, Minnesota, he'd be nice next to Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley. Again, like I said, Denver, Sacramento. You go through the list, maybe the Lakers, because they need something because things aren't working for them. The in-season tournament champions currently in 10th place in the West. But you look at the Eastern Conference now, Milwaukee, I think could use a guy like Malcolm Brogdon again. Again, Philly, I think makes perfect sense. New York, maybe. The Pacers, I think definitely. I don't know. I'm not just going down the list of knit teams he's already played for. But then, of course, the Miami Heat. I think the Miami Heat could use him. Without question, they could use him just for their depth and what he brings to the table. So there's going to be teams lining up for his services. And I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. So we'll see what happens there. Because, man, that's going to be interesting. Are you going to be able to get a first-round pick in pieces? Is it just going to be picks? What's it going to be? Because you're already seeing what's going on here. The first domino that fell for the trade deadline was OG Anunoby being traded to the New York Knicks, right? For pennies on the dollar compared to what the rumors were that they were being offered for him just a season ago. And remember, dude, it's weird how these all work out, because last year OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, basically untouchable. Now OG Anunoby is wearing a New York Knicks uniform, and the rumors are Pascal Siakam is being shopped as well. There was rumors just earlier last week that the Sacramento Kings were in conversations. It was quickly fizzled out, but that's what's going on. There's going to be some movement. There's going to be some shaking. Jonathan Kuminga is another name that seems to be a little bit disgruntled, as is Moses Moody in Golden State. Could the Blazers get in on that? And that would be tough as well. But I mean, maybe that's a situation there in Golden State where you Malcolm Brogdon, right? Is there a contracts that can match up? Because with the injury to Chris Paul and him being out for an extended period of time after having surgery on his broken hand, they need that position, right? They need that secondary guard. And Paul has played well next to Curry, letting Curry just be a shot maker. So maybe Brogdon makes sense. Does Jeremy Grant make sense for a team like Golden State? Because yes, Klay Thompson is rounding back into form, but maybe they don't have the necessarily means to re-sign him to another big deal, and they want to try to get off of that. And okay, we'll bring in Jeremy Grant, shore up our power forward position. We'll send you Klay Thompson, and we'll work stuff out to get Kuminga and all that. Some draft capital, and then the Blazers let Klay Thompson walk in free agency. That $40 million comes off the books. You got some draft capital and a young player along with it. Again, just spitballing here, but this is that time of year, man. The rumors are flying, and as my friend of the show, Sean Hyken, said, keep in mind that everything is just a rumor until the trade actually happens, right? Because this is the time of year where your sources are going to tell you something that my sources told me different, and now I'm going to go out there and you're going to hear conflicting reports. Nothing is true, obviously, until a trade happens, but I would look at teams like that to definitely be interested in the likes of Malcolm Brogdon and Jeremy Grant in the long run. Maybe people come knocking on the door for a Shaedon Sharpe or even a Tamani Kamara, Matisse Thybulle, still young, friendly contract. The Blazers are going to be involved in a trade before this trade deadline. I 100% gut feeling tells me that will happen.